It wants this day one. Alright, what's going on, good people? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby, representing Team Kings of Games, yo. And today I'm gonna be showcasing you guys the newest update on pendulums. So it's basically ZEFRA, Pendulum, Magician, and Endymions. And it does have like a very high ceiling in my personal opinion. Now pendulums have always had a high ceiling, so I guess it doesn't have to be an opinion, it's really factual, but they are overshadowed by so many other combo decks this format, and it's always really been like that for multiple formats. That's why it's at the same time like, I know the deck's good, but dang, this Servant really had to go to one, the Electrum might really have to get banned, because like pendulums never really get that hype, or you know, that spotlight that they deserve. Like, they're always being overshadowed so many formats, in and out, even at full power. You know, they weren't topping everywhere. You weren't seeing pendulums topping every YCS. You know, it was always like Orcus or Salamangreats or Sky Strikers, you know, just other decks. It's weird. So I will say this deck is definitely being slept on right now, because people are like so hyped up on Mermails and, you know, Rocks and Eldritch and Invokes and Shadows. It's like you keep forgetting, like, dude, this is like literally the best combo deck, like, period, yo. Like, this deck abuses the best summoning mechanic, the summoning mechanic that even forced Master Rule format, Master Rule 4 to even be a thing. That's the reason why I did that, was to nerf pendulums. Part of the Master Rule 4 ruling was that we weren't allowed to pendulum summon more than once from our extra. Like, it's just, there's just too much, dude. Like, like, dude, this deck definitely is slept on, honestly. Like, the deck is just so powerful. Its ceiling is ridiculously high. It has the ability to play through multiple interruptions. It can play through hand traps. It puts up boards that you just really cannot break without side deck cards. And my particular list puts up boards that don't lose to Dark Ruler no more or Super Poly, and Spear Mode still ain't enough because I have like 7 negates, dude. It's crazy. So the deck's definitely powerful. I think it puts up better boards than even Adamantimators. Even with Electromite banned and, you know, with only one Servant, the deck's still insane. You guys should definitely check out Pendulum content on my channel if you're new to it, because I've done so much with this deck in the past, even as of recent, and some combo tutorials. But I'm going to go ahead and get into the main deck without any further ado. Oh yeah, the one last thing, I just keep reminding myself to say this every video. Do check the link description box below. You'll find ways that you can directly support my channel. If you would like to, I'll greatly appreciate that. I also have Team Kings of Games t-shirts for sale, so if you're interested in those, you can drop a comment, hit me up in Discord, Facebook, etc. So let's go ahead and get to the list. I'm going to lay out the monsters in each portion, and then I'll go ahead and explain them. So we're going to start off with 3 copies of Chronograph Sorcerer, 3 copies of Magical Abductor. This might catch a little people, like some people might be like, nah, I disagree, but 3 copies of Magister, your 1 Servant, it's still fine, you're basically playing 4, and there's a ton of other ways to actually access her, 1 copy of Reflection, and I'm also playing 3 copies of Endymion. This card's nuts. 3 copies of Master Cerberus, 2 copies of Jackal King, and 1 copy of Garuda. So I'm going to stop right here. So this portion of the deck is basically the vital spellcasters. These cards, a lot of these can hold spell counters, which is very, very vital for the playstyle of the deck, because a larger variety of your cards are spellcasters that revolve around spell counters, and that's eccentric for the Endymion portion of your deck. Now, cards like Master Cerberus and Mighty Master are incredible for going first and going second. They allow you to have spot removal and board wipes. People still kind of sleep on this, and it's very hard to counter it because it is resolving as a spell. But what's really also imperative about these is all of these can make Selene, and all of these can make the Crowley Link. So they can turn bad hands to good hands. They also can make Union Carrier. So it really is easy to get to that lock with the Buster Blader. I'm trying to think of his name. It's a Destruction Sword something. You're going to see it in the profile. But that's one of the main focal points of the deck. Is I'm not only trying to vomit out a board that's unbreakable nearly, but I'm also trying to play around Dark Ruler No More and Super Poly, because some people are bold enough to even main deck those cards. Now, cards like Garuda, and also it depends on, you know, the composition of your hand, but cards like Garuda, you know, your Divine Strike and other things of that nature are very, very powerful for even if your opponent happen to open like 3 Dark Ruler No Mores, for example, or double Dark Ruler No More. This is a card that can still be used as a way to have interactions while your board is completely negated. And it's really, really powerful because there are certain decks like Adamantimators and other decks like, for example, when you play Invoke, this card, if you time it right and you use it at the right moment, it can really hurt. I really want to say it hurts more on Adamantimators because clearing the bodies off their field, especially if they summon Block Dragon, you know, and you bounce it back, they're going to have to banish 3 again just to summon it out again, and they might not even have those resources. So the card can absolutely end turns. Obviously, it's incredible in the mirror match. It's just a very, very slept on hand trap that's searchable off of Ductor, searchable off of your Master Cerberus. You can even special summon it from your deck off Servant. You can special summon it off of Magister, and you can bounce it with your Endymion to your hand, and once you've bounced it, you basically can use it as a hand trap. So this is one of the most powerful cards in your main deck. It also is a main deck out to Mystic Mine, you know, it baits out back rows. It's just a really, really prominent card. I'm in and out with it, but honestly, this format, I think it's really important. Even though Yu-Gi-Oh's kind of canceled, you still are basically making observations based off of what I'm seeing online, and you know, those speculations are just from the facts and statistics of certain results of other tournaments and just seeing what's topping and what's not topping. So these cards are just very important. Certain ratios could be respectable, or certain ratios might not be what you would agree on, but ultimately this is my list and this is the conclusion I came to. I'm very happy with the results. Obviously the 3 Magister is another thing some people might be caught a little bit off guard by. Just for the simple fact that a lot of people say, oh, well, you can't use it on your turn, and also you can only special summon 1. Well, for one, you can use it on your turn if you have it in scale, and that happens a lot for me, especially when you use your Abductor combo. When you normal Abductor and do your combo with Magician's Souls, you just get a ton of advantage, and this card just allows you to play through interruptions. When you're going second, it can easily reestablish your board. Your Pendulum Summon can get interrupted, or your board can just get wiped, and you can use this after you Pendulum Summon to resolve its scale effect, to get out another interruption, and he's an interruption by itself as long as you have something that can hold counters. And naturally he is, because you're going to be bringing him out alongside a monster like Jackal King, Master Cerberus, Mighty Master, you know, even Garuda sometimes. It just totally depends. And basically this card, the way I see it, is like a Altergeist Multi-Faker, because it's not just going to put out a negate. So it's a lot more different from just flat out summoning Endymion or Jackal King, or, you know, summoning out like Vortex and things of that nature, because he can summon different interruptions. He can summon out Garuda from your deck. He can summon out Endymion to negate. He can summon Reflection to bounce. He can summon Master Cerberus just to get a bigger push next turn. If you see a wall and you can't get over it, you can summon this bad boy out. If there's enough spell counters on your field, he won't even be able to be destroyed by anything. So there's just a lot more, basically, I want to say dual purpose, multi-purpose with the card than just the pen and paper. People will play 1 or 2, but honestly, that's just more or less just like cookie cut lists that you just, it's not really like you test it in real life. It's just like you see what everybody's doing and you just copy it. But honestly, this card has rewarded me. I love opening it, and I search it as much as I possibly can, because my ending boards, I need multiples, honestly. If you open multiples, you can pin summon 2, or you can pin summon 1 and then normal the other, but you definitely want to have at least 1 Magister, because this also makes your board even less susceptible to Super Poly if you didn't get the Buster combo. And in addition to that, if you're scoping what you're playing, you might not need Endymion, you might need Jackal King. And you might not need Jackal King, you might need Reflection. You might not need any of those, you might need Garuda, so you can bounce it with Endymion and use its effect to actually, you know, spin cards back within their special summon. So just because he gives you contingencies, he can also give you access to, for example, Servant. He can summon her from the deck, and if these cards die, they will go right back to your scale. So you have better scales, and obviously when you're using cards like Reflection and Mighty Master, you're giving yourself follow-ups by bouncing cards back to your hand that you can activate again. So this portion of the deck, like I said, is very, very vital, and it has some of the most longevity outside of the ZEFRA cards themselves. And the next portion of the deck is the ZEFRAs. It's a very small, compact engine. I'm basically playing a minimum because you do not want to draw too many ZEFRAs, for the simple fact that if you draw multiples, that means that you have to have the correct scales in your hand. Because if you scale any ones that are not ZEFRA, you are restricted to only Pendulum Summoning ZEFRAs. And that's good when you're playing pure, that's no problem. But when you're playing so many other monsters, that's a very, very huge detriment on your playstyle. So you don't want that to happen. So we have these for smart removal for going second. And obviously, ideally, you want ZEFRA Neo and ZEFRA for going first. If you're ever in a situation where you have monsters that are high levels, or you're trying to pin summon 7s, you'd rather search ZEFRA Neo directly from your deck than the ZEFRA. But also keep in mind, he can be your low scale. It just totally depends on the composition of your hand and what you RNG'd into off of your draw cards. So continuing with the Magicians, we're playing 1 Harmo, 1 Dragon Pit, 1 Caller. The reason why I value Caller over Janky is just because Caller's still a scale 2. Janky is a scale 3, which means I can't pin summon out my Magisters, which is very, very important to me. I already explained to you guys how much Magister like how much he means to me. So I don't want to be in a situation where I have to either normal summon it or summon it off of Selene, which is not something I want to do. So this being a scale 2 is also very important, and it helps you to make cards like the Union Carrier, for example, which is really, really cool. Because if you have, for example, the Absolute play, you can target any other monster on the field with this scale effect, make it a dragon, link Absolute and that into Union Carrier, summon out Vortex, equip Vortex with the Destruction Sword, and then your opponent can use their extra deck. So it's really, really cool. Then we have one Purple Poison, one White Wing Magician, and then one Time Gazer for the Magician package. This is just part of Chronograph. You don't get the benefits out of Chronograph unless you play the Time Gazer. Obviously, it has an incredible effect. So the Magician's pretty compact, but I will say people really do sleep on the effect of a Vortex that it does shuffle. So even though you play that one Harmonizing, if you put it in your extra deck, you can shuffle it back and then search it for a follow-up, and that can just be game right there. The finishing, it's kind of like a supplemental engine. I played 2 Dark Worms and 1 Gate 0. I still valued the Dragon Shrine and the Foolish as +1 starters that allow me to bait interruptions, easily force IP Masquerena to link when she doesn't want to. And also these are easy baits for Called by the Grave. They're just baits for interruptions. And just getting that critical mass value for when you're going second, you need as many cards, as many scales, as many monsters as you possibly can. So I really value the Dark Worm, and him being a free level 4 to make cards like Dweller and other like synchro plays is just really important. So the non-pendulums I'm playing are Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. That's the name. There you go. We're playing one Blue Boy, and this is one Magician Soul that I really can't afford right now. But that's the proxy of the main deck. And like I'm saying, you guys, this deck, honestly, people can say it's biased, but honestly, there's a reason why the Master Rule happened, and people that knew about pendulums or have played against them, nobody wants to play against this deck. Like, nobody wants to say, hey, I want to get paired against pendulum, because this deck can play around like everything that counters it, including the side deck cards, including Nibiru. It's just a really, really strong deck, but not everybody can build it right, so there becomes a problem where there's only one way supposedly, and people follow that one way hardcore, and then they start to forget there are so many ways to play this deck. And when that one way is it becomes a crutch for your mentality, and you start to lose games and you realize, dang, my list isn't working, they start to think pendulums as a whole isn't good enough, not paying attention that maybe it's your deck list itself, and maybe it's the pilot. Because if you're just cookie cutting lists from other people and you're not taking the time and effort to master piloting the deck and learning the ineffectiveness of certain hands and how to play with those brick hands, or learning basically how to play going second, then you're always going to look at this deck as not good enough. But it is really exceptional. So for spells, we play 3 copies of Spell Power Mastery. We play 3 ZEFRA Providence. This card is incredible for your spell counter owners, because this is always going to be 1 card, 3 spell counters. When you have Mythical Beast, this is 1 card, 6 spell counters. This is a very, very powerful card. I'm also playing 3 copies of Oracle. The reason why you're trying to open one of these is because opening these guarantees that you get to your ZEFRA Divine Strike. That's your counter to Dark Ruler No More post-sighting. But still, just having that counter trap means that no matter what happens, if you get Spear Molded, Lava Golem, even if you get Super Poly, you will always have that negate. This card just raises your ceiling exponentially, because your opponent can side so hard and do everything they can to counter your board, but they will always have to deal with this. And if you played your hand right and it was decent enough, they'll always have to play around basically Divine Strike and Garuda. So under cards like Super Poly or Lava Golem, Spear Mold, you will always have the ZEFRA Divine Strike, and you'll have your Garuda, because what the smart play to do is to leave cards like Abductor or even your Servant or anything of that nature, even Reflection, any spell counter holder in your scale, so that you have Garuda's effect to resolve under, like let's say they double Dark Ruler No More you, for example, or they Super Poly you. You can't negate Super Poly with this. So you'll always be able to have interruptions no matter what happens to your board. Even if they like Spear Mold Kaiju, you'll always have this, and you'll always have Garuda if you play your cards right. So you just have to, games 2 and 3, you have to play with the mentality that they are going to open it. They're going to have Nibiru. I have to play around Nibiru. They are going to open Dark Ruler No More, so you play around it. And this deck can play around all of them. It does a better job than pure Endymion, just for the simple fact that it has access to cards like Dweller. It has quicker access to cards like Vortex and Borload Savage and the Divine Strike to counter Dark Ruler No More. And Endymion has to play Secret Village, which is basically a brick, and it's really, they have a hard time making rank 4s and level 8 generic synchros. So this deck does have a higher ceiling because its arsenal is more, I guess it has a wider variety in its arsenal. But anyways, continuing. then you're gonna think I'm crazy, but with the addition of Magician Souls, I felt very comfortable with playing 6 Pendulum Calls because this card is just always gonna get you 2 interruptions. It's going to get you the Harmonizing and the White Wing if your hand's good enough, because you'll normally have the 7 scale, you'll have one of the Endymions, one of the Reflections, you know, the Gate 0. And if not, it's going to get you Harmonizing in your 7 skill so that you can make your Vortex play. I'm doing Vortex off of Meteor Burst, and that way I can just keep my Endymions on the field. And you're just using cards like Magician Soul and Shooting Rhizar to dump your targets for the Selene. Like, one of the best targets I send for Selene is honestly the Magister. I'll dump Magister the turn I summon Shooting Rhizar. Then on my opponent's turn, I'll use Selene, you know, to summon that Magister that I dumped on my turn, which is really nice. But the 6 Pendulum Calls are incredible. If you have extra copies, easy discard fodder for your Magician Soul, because you're getting to Soul very effectively in this deck. It's nice. But this is incredible, especially because I play 60. You want to increase your odds and the probability of opening this card, because it's always going to get you interruptions, and worst case scenario, it's going to get you complete scales, high and low, which is very integral because Electromite's banned, dude. Like, there's no I make a bad hand, but I can pin summon too, and then still, like, no, you have to, it's more RNG than anything now. Then we have 1 Dragon Shrine and 1 Foolish. The utility with Foolish is it can dump targets for Selene if you already had access to the Dark Worm or didn't need it. So it just has that double purpose where it can do multiple things. But naturally, these are +1 starters that easily allow you to get fodder for discards, or even, you know, for example, for your Allure. I also play the 2 Secrets, the 1 Knowledge for the Spellbook engine. Honestly, I like playing the 2-1-1 ratio. It's better for me, especially because I play 60. But you're easily getting access to Crowley. With almost every hand, you can just make a Crowley before you even normal summon. Some hands you'll make it after you've already normal summoned, which is still fine, because Selene's an incredible card. You can even do Link Climbing with her, because she revives any spellcaster, so you can even bring back the Crowley, for example, just so that you can Link Climb even further, which is cool. And to sum up the main deck, I am playing the 1 ZEFRA Divine Strike. But yeah, like, honestly, if you're watching this, you probably do play Pendulum, so you know what I'm talking about. But this deck is, like, it really is the best combo deck. Herald of Perfection is not a combo deck. It's a control deck that just happens to have a high critical mass volume, so it's able to combo off. But this is, like, the best combo deck. Like, it really is. And I feel like Shaddolls and Herald are, like, the best mid-range decks. So continuing with the deck profile for the extra, I play 1 Crowley. I played 1 Union Carrier. This card is just way too powerful, you guys. Honestly, it's just too good. You have to play it because you don't want to play in a weird way where you're changing the attributes of what you summon just so you can't be super polyed, just for your opponent to normal summon a Shaddol and super poly your board anyways. So it's gonna happen like that. People are main decking super poly, like I said, and people are side decking it, and you can leave only 1 dark and your opponent can still normal dark and super poly your board, and it can just be annoying sometimes that they're just taking away those resources, super polying your Selene into a construct. So you just want to lock your opponent out of the extra deck. This is why I played the Amorphages in the past, because I always would say, like, if you lock your opponent out the extra deck, there's very little cards you will have to negate, because there are certain cards they can't even activate because they can't go into their extra deck. So this is kind of something that I would just never take out. It's the new Amorphage lock, basically. 1 IP Masquerena, shoutouts to Team Kingdom Duelists. And then these 2 cards are actually supposed to be Selene's. I just still do not have them. I definitely recommend playing 2. If you played 1, you'll find the need to make the second one, even if you don't go crazy and summon 2 in a turn. Just the contingency of it, because a follow-up Selene can easily get the kill. Just because she gets so much critical mass on her own, she generates so much advantage. Like I said, you're gonna use this card with so many different interactions. Like, Endymion is just one thing that you can do. Like, you can summon Endymion off it, obviously, but you can also do crazy stuff, bringing back your links. You can honestly, like I said, Shooting Rhizar can dump Mythical Beast Garuda, or it can dump Magister, and you can summon those in your opponent's turn and interact even further. So it's really, really cool. So 2 Selene's. The 1 Borrelsword, easy to go for kills. You can even summon Borrelsword without even Pendulum summoning. If you look at my combo tutorial, I showed you how to spam the board and put out 4 interruptions without even Pendulum summoning. The Appaloosa, you find yourself making this card here and there, but the boards are so powerful, sometimes you just don't have the room, and the resources that you would use to make this, they are actual negates. So it depends on the composition of your hand, but you still want to play this because you can also do a really cool play that I do. I like to leave Absolute sometimes, Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon there, and the IP to link summon with her and that and another card to summon the Appaloosa on my opponent's turn to trigger the Vortex to bounce and have those negations with the counter trap and with the Magister and everything else I had. One Abomination, because this card just bodies back row decks like Altergeist. It bodies like just like it's just a really powerful card, and whenever you negate and destroy it, it's gonna trigger to pop another card. So it's just interruptions for free. Now there are certain cards that I just don't have. Like I don't have Celine, I don't have Borreload Savage, and then I also do not have Shooting Rhizar. I have it and I just don't know where it is. I looked through all my extra deck cards. So Omega is here because I really play Omega. The Scarlight is basically the Borreload Savage Dragon that I don't have it right now. This Dawn Dragster is actually the Shooting Rhizar. I prefer this over Dragster because I use it to dump my combo pieces to summon off Celine on my opponent's turn. Not the same turn you sent it because the restriction of Rhizar, but you dump it, summon on your opponent's turn. And also he allows you to synchro summon into Omega on my opponent's turn, which catches people off guard because they'll play their best cards last. So as they're baiting my negates, I can summon an Omega and then rip the card they were saving, like that Shit All Fusion they were trying to resolve, for example, or you know that Bombshell, that double evolution pill, or you know anything like that, that Diagram plus Baby. You just use Omega to snipe their best cards. So then it's like, dang, I was saving that, hoping I could bait your negations, and Omega's he's just going to take that problem away. And he allows you to put your extra deck cards back for your grind game. He can put your Celines back. He's just really, really powerful. And then the Meteor Burst, the Absolute, and the Vortex package deal. You summon all three of these for the combo. And then finally, Abyss Dweller, the only rank 4 that I play, and it's the best rank 4 of this format. It's still going to help you out against Eldritch. It's still going to help you out against zombie variants, against, you know, Shadows, against Salads. You know, it's still a great card. It's a good staple. And Block Dragon can't resolve under Dweller if they send it to the graveyard, which is really cool. So for the side deck, I'm siding 3 Evenlies, 3 Dark Ruler No Mores, 3 Lava Golems, 3 Denkos. I just like siding the blowouts. I don't like hand traps unless it's necessary. Like for the hand loop of the hand loop deck, like basically it is Mermels, but it's like a hand loop deck because that's the variant that people prefer. These cards are not impactful because they're going to rip cards out of your hand. So I would recommend, if that deck becomes prominent, that you want to start side decking Droll and Lockbirds because they'll just turn that deck off. Same with it'll hurt this deck. But I've always had the mindset of I'd rather break the board than prevent it from happening because Call by the Grave and Chain Blocking can make hand traps sometimes minimal to ineffective. Even Nibiru can easily be played around. There's so many good decks out there that don't lose to it. And people are just, there's competent players that just know how to play around those cards. But it's really hard to play around a Lava Golem because you just hit them. It's really hard to play around Dark Ruler if you don't have the negate for it. And for back row decks, this is going to force out Judgment. If they don't have Judgment, they can't like strike or anything like that. They can't use their Crackdowns, their Torrentials. You know, it just turns everything off. And Evenly is one of the best cards to side deck. You might think I'm crazy, but I do side the Medusa. This also helps against back row decks. If my pin summon gets Solemn Strike their Judgment, I can use this to recur one of my resources. It has synergy with Magician's Soul, and it acts as a pseudo Celine, and also it has an incredible on-field effect to actually help you get damage pushes. It's just really, really strong to side against back row decks because you'll find yourself grinding it out, and this card is just really going to help you out. The Reboot, because again, I just really don't like back row. Even if they say, oh, back row is not prominent, you don't know what you're going to get paired against. And then Gaga Cowboy, because the time roll, you'll get trapped in your main phase, and you'll have to have a way to burn, otherwise it's a draw. So that's the deck profile, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. And I'm going to say a quick little prayer and I'm going to get off. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Jesus. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done on earth just as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread, Lord. And please forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, Father, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the glory, and the power. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Thank you, Father. Amen. All right, yo, peace out, you guys.